Yeah, and Captain Jack, he hasn't played Graves, which he was initially known for, and he hasn't been able to really get his hands on Vayne and Kog'Maw for the last couple of series. We did see him playing a lot of Vayne earlier. Wicked giving everybody a nice stare, doing his best Snoopy impression.
Ah, broke.
And then, of course, we have the Sona, Jace, and Nivea bans going out. Wicked. They don't want him to be on Jace. No one ever wants Froggen to play Anivia. And Sona, an extremely strong support that J-Rhea has been playing all tournament very, very well. Stealing kills, being more of a scumbag than Creepo.
Scumbag J-Rhea. However, we did see him with some very, very impressive Blitzcrank play in the match that they did actually ban out Sona from him. So potentially going to see another aggressive lane coming out from CLG.eu. However, Azubu Blaze has made the fatal mistake of giving Wicked Aurelia.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have enough bans a lot of the time to get everything you want away from CLG.eu. They do have quite a few signature champions that they can pull out at any time. We do have Shy hovering over Nautilus. This is actually a jungler we haven't seen in quite some time in competitive play. So I'd be really excited to see if they're going to jungle him or if they have some very crazy strategy to use with him. Now it looks like they're going to be turning back over to Ezreal, of course, and Cho'Gath.
Either or, those two junglers are very, very heavy crowd control machines as well as very, very beefy tanks. So Ezreal, of course, being taken away because this is the Kha'Zix patch and Ezreal is still very, very strong on this patch. Cho'Gath, a jungle champion that we've seen a lot more in recent time. Maybe we could take a look and see what's really running through CLG.eu's heads, because Snoopy likes to play that Cho'Gath as well.
Honest, like Zyra, we can pick Zyra already.
And you can also jungle.
And jungle, that'd be good, because then maybe I can go Varus.
Right, so Skarner?
Because it's pretty good on lane against Ezreal.
I can do Maokai, but I think Skarner's probably better. What do you think?
I think the Skarner's worse because having his Cho'Gath. If you try and jump in and he silences you, you're fucked. I think Maokai will do better. Yeah, I think Maokai will.
So it does seem like that CLG.eu, they're hovering over that Zyra pick, another champion that J-Rhea actually has been very, very, very good with. So running that support Zyra, and they're actually, did I hear correctly and say they're thinking about running Varus?
I mean, that's not a champion you hear or you see very often.
Unless you know Taco Storm. Then you see him quite often.
Fair enough, fair enough. Really, in the North American scene, the only player that we see consistently playing Varus is Aframu, but he does very, very well in lane. Varus, a huge lane bully. He doesn't have any natural escape mechanism, so it's really up to the jungler to counter gank and keep him alive. You have to protect him very, very well. But of course, if they're going to run Zyra, that route will help them kind of dissuade Helios's Cho'Gath from ganking them. We are going to see a Diana pick, looks like, from Ambition. We've seen Blaze play a lot of Diana in the past, both in OGN, and I believe we've seen several picks so far this tournament. Blitzcrank getting hovered over it as well. They have picked Ezreal, so Blitz is a pretty safe choice, especially, I mean, I think the Blitz pick might actually just force CLG.eu not to take Varus. It might be a little too risky.
Yeah, Blitzcrank with that pull is going to make Varus melt instantly because he is not a very tanky champion at all. That support Zyra, even though she can lock down Blitzcrank in a certain position, doesn't matter if he's going to be bringing the ADK or that support Zyra, who's also a very squishy champion, just into the foray. If you get that knock-up down, Ezreal's going to be able to unload with a fury of spells. He's going to slow down Varus' attack speed, which, even though his passive gives him a little bit of a steroid on that, Ezreal's basically going to cancel that one out, and that is one of Varus' very weak spots. So as you mentioned, that aggressive Blitzcrank support pick could potentially shut them down, and we do see them hovering over Corki and Lee Sin.
So we may, in fact, see Froggen on Lee Sin in mid. Now,
we are. It's locked in.
It's locked, so Froggen mid Lee Sin. We're going to see it again.
Everybody just woke up.
And if you didn't see the last game, in order to basically compensate for the lack of AP damage, Wicked was actually running Wit's End and Ionic Spark, which on Aurelia, same composition. So that's a very, very different build than we're typically used to seeing on Aurelia, but it actually has an immense AP damage output. And they need that damage so that Blaze doesn't really easily itemize against them with armor. And they don't do as much damage. So in this case, Wicked doesn't play a lot of AP. He doesn't play really any AP champions in top lane. I think that CLG.eu is working on it to get him to play a few more for Season 3. But right now, his AP champion pool is really limited.
To Aurelia.
To Aurelia with certain items. Anyway, guys, we've got Azubu Blaze versus CLG.eu Game 1 coming up in just a couple minutes. But first, a quick commercial break. All right, we're in Game 1 here on Championship Sunday in Dallas. We've got Azubu Blaze versus CLG.eu. Winner of this will head up to the grand finals to face off against Najin Sword. You saw them sitting in the audience just a few moments ago.
Yeah, and if I were them, I would be too, because you get a perfect chance to study your opponents in this best-of-3 series that's going to happen. So they're going to have everything, like the best scouting possible, just handed to them on a silver platter. And the best part is they're going to be able to see what these two teams are going to want to do in the early game at this level 1 composition.
You know, I really have to say that I like Azubu Blaze's team comp with this Diana and the Blitzcrank at bottom lane. They're going to be looking to get some heavy roam and get some kills in lane while feeding Shy up top, getting him nice and farmed for the late game. They've got a good balance of the early game power in that bottom lane, the mid game roaming capabilities of Diana, and the late game carry status of Shy.
We do see that there's not really going to be a lot of invades or any contestation at level 1, really. A couple of wards have gone down, but they're from actually the side of CLG.eu. I can't even really see any being put down from the side of Azubu Blaze, so we might see a little bit of a passive start for the Korean powerhouses, despite that Blitzcrank pickup.
Yeah, and it looks like we have Froggen just roaming around mid lane. He has 78 attack damage to start, so he's running heavy into the attack damage runes, looking to get those early trades and harass on, bouncing around like a ping pong ball in that mid lane, getting the shields up and harassing Ambition while he tries to last hit. So I think this lane is highly in favor of Froggen.
Yeah, even though Diana offers a bit of mobility, Lee Sin's going to do it a lot quicker, and he's going to be dealing a lot more damage than Diana will be in the early stages of the game. Of course, Diana is going to be an AP champion, needs a little bit of itemization in order to get that really kick-started. Lee Sin, on the other hand, like you said, with runes and masteries, Froggen runs him basically like a top laner at flat AD, armor, and magic resistance, so he's just really bringing out the bruising from level 1.
Yeah, and it is very, very difficult to play a melee ranged AP mid champion against a bruiser. I've talked to Froggen in the past about his Anivia builds. He also, if Anivia wasn't banned in the rare instance in a tournament where it wouldn't be, he actually loves to run AD runes on Anivia against champions like Diana and Kassadin just to get the auto attack harass and win his lane.
All right, so we can take a quick run down the lane. Just see in top lane, Aurelia and Jax, just that slugfest, really. They're going to be battering each other back and forth the entire game. Aurelia might wind up winning out on those trades a little bit later due to her sustain from that Heaton style. But Jax, though, you got to be really, really careful, because if you feed a Jax, it's lights out. Well,
it's really hard to actually get the trades in as Aurelia in the first 6 levels or so, just because Counter-Strike basically will dodge all of the true damage coming out of Aurelia. So it's a bit of a back and forth matchup depending on levels. And Aurelia starts to shine later on, but Jax definitely has an edge early.
And meanwhile, we talked about this mid lane matchup a little bit. Diana's going to be a little hard pressed for CS and to do really anything against that very mobile, very dangerous Froggen Lee Sin.
And this bottom lane here, we do have J-Ree with the Zyra, and there comes the root, and we're going to have an early attack onto Captain Jack. There comes the twisted advance onto Lust Boy, and a grab into turret for Snoopy, and that'll be first blood for Captain Jack.
Oh, that was just perfectly read by Azubu's squad. They had no wards down in the area. Actually, they're not done yet. Lust Boy going to go back in onto J-Ree, knock him up, but then they're going to wisely back off from that one. Not only that, though, now Captain Jack on Ezreal has a blue buff. He's going to be spamming spells back and forth. Yellow Pete and J-Ree not going to be happy about that one.
Yeah, he is maxing Mystic Shot first, interestingly, so he's not looking to actually do sustained trades, hitting Captain Jack with the root, but not a lot of damage right now, clearing out those plants.
Yeah, so this bottom lane is going to be a little bit hard pressed for CS in the beginning stages of this game because of that blue buff on Ezreal as well. They did burn both flashes in order to get that kill on Snoopy. It was good positioning, and Lust Boy really read that one like a pro, being able to knock Snoopy up and save the pull for when he tried to run away when there were no minions around. So really great play by Blaze in the bottom lane. Although with both those flashes down, there could be a point of contention from that roaming Lee Sin as well as another Maokai gang to get the blue back.
Yeah, I think Snoopy's going to be really far down, though, and mostly concerned with actually getting and clearing his jungle for the moment. See some damage going down up here in top lane as we see a trade as Shy taking a bit extra damage from that He-10 style, but looks like a very passive lane so far up in top.
Yeah, meanwhile, speaking of a non-passive lane, we saw in the middle lane, we had Diana and Lee Sin actually kind of trading blows back and forth. Snoopy waiting in the wings over here, potentially going to go getting that twisted advance standing onto Ambition, but perhaps read the play. Ambition's going to wisely back off and go to take some wraiths.
Yeah, Ambition so far looking at 29 to 34 CS, so hasn't been zoned out too badly by Froggen at this point in time. Both of these players going to be roaming around to the other lanes later, so when we do have a relatively passive game early and a bit of a mistake by Snoopy getting dragged into the turret by Lust Boy's Blitzcrank, this mid game should actually be quite exciting with a lot of roaming from all of these champions.
Top lane, in the meantime, we did see that Shy pushing the lane all the way into the enemy tower, then going back to acquire his own items. Wicked on Aurelia actually went back first, so he's a little bit down in CS, has acquired that Ruby Crystal, but we see Jax going for straight damage to sustain, picking up that Dorian's Blade early to win out in some of these trades, as well as that Vampiric Scepter to sustain himself at least as well as Aurelia is going to be able to.
You know, it's always interesting to see how people skill Lee Sin in lane. Void Boy, back when he was playing in top lane all the time, used to really like to skill the Safeguard Iron Will up first, but in this case we're seeing the Sonic Wave Resonating Strike coming down for a lot more extra damage in that early game.
This is something actually the former Legion top laner, Cruiser the Bruiser, used to advocate a lot. Was he said that people who build Lee Sin defensively won't win games because you don't play him as a passive kind of tank style, you play him as a bruiser. And as we know, Froggen loves playing him like a bruiser. So maxing that Sonic Wave Resonating Strike is not very surprising, especially with how deadly accurate he can be.
Yeah, Froggen now going back, picking up a Phage as his first item, so that's going to really help him in trades. It'll get him to stick onto Ambition. Ambition now looking like he may be making a move into bottom lane, comes back, Helios loops around, trying to steal CLG.eu's Wraiths. Looks like he'll get a free shot at it, just gets the smite off and runs back towards his own jungle. Yeah,
and most importantly, he has that ward down, so going to be able to keep tabs on Snoopy. As I mentioned, because of that failed gank in the bottom lane, getting dragged into the tower, a little bit behind, so if they keep tabs on where Maokai is going to be, they're going to be able to continue to try to shut them down.
Yeah, Froggen pushing his lane very heavily right now. Looks like he's heading out. Oh, no, he's going to stick around in that mid lane, going up. He's just juking around from side to side, trying to confuse me, and he's going to try and land the Sonic Wave there, but the big Wraith isn't there to take it, so he's going to clear out these small Wraiths instead.
Yeah, meanwhile, we do see Maokai going over to his own blue buff. Going to have to take this one away. Very good in this double bruiser composition, though. No one's really reliant on that blue buff. Sometimes you see Froggen's Lee Sin taking it just so he can have the extra spell spam. However, Snoopy, being behind in the jungle, is going to be able to catch up a bit quicker by taking the second blue buff.
Yeah, this lane up top has just been back and forth the entire time. The minion wave really hasn't frozen in one place, just ping-ponging between the turrets, but both Wicked and Shy pretty much at full HP this entire game so far.
Meanwhile, in the jungle, Helios has acquired Boots of Mobility first, not even going for any GP10 items. So Snoopy in the jungle being able to pick up that Philosopher's Stone a little bit early, going to catch up on par with Helios fairly quick. However, with those Boots of Mobility, as you saw before, he's able to put the ward in the bush, steal away the big rate, and potentially get a couple more ganks in before Snoopy's really caught himself up.
You know, this is the same jungle Cho'Gath build, the Boots of Moby first, that we saw Chowster use yesterday, and it worked actually quite well. We've seen A few months ago, we saw pretty much all the junglers going boots and mobility first, but now it's really a decision as to whether you want to get your gold for 10 items first or go the boots. It tells you a lot about whether they're going to be ganking or not early, and how fast they want to move around the jungle. Looks like Helios just using it for the move speed to clear creeps, using his feast on the big Wraith there to clear it to camp even faster.
You see a trade going down in the mid lane between Froggen and Ambition. Froggen actually tried to go into top lane. However, there was a ward in the river right by mid lane. So Shy read that one like a book from a mile away, hid in the bush. Froggen thought he decided to recall, and then Shy popped back into that top lane, continuing to push the wave forward and get a little bit of harassment down on Wicked. So they're really shutting down Froggen's early mobility and letting Diana get to the point where she can roam around as easily as Lee Sin.
Yeah, and the CS looking pretty even across the board here. Froggen up a little bit, 86 to 67, so about 19 CS, but with the recall and Ambition coming back to lane, that should even up a little bit more. We have the first Oracle's Elixir of the game on Snoopy, so he'll be clearing out some wards real quick.
Yeah, Snoopy style, going for that early Oracle's Elixir, trying to garner map control by clearing out wards. Although on the side of Azubu Blaze, they don't really have that many. The one in the river mid lane has expired. He's potentially going to find one by his raids, but no, hasn't activated the Oracles yet. That signifies that maybe he wants to try to get a gank while his blue buff is still up, and he doesn't want to risk that Oracle's Elixir. The only other ward, though, he's going to find is in that bottom lane, which might actually be his target.
So we see Captain Jack going back and picking up a BF sword as his first item, so not going a typical kind of Phage first Ezreal build, and that's going to make his Mystic Shot, so he has been leveling that ability first. That's going to make it even more powerful. Now it looks like Snoopy's coming around. They do have a ward, and the bind from Zyra will miss.
Yeah, so we actually do have a trade going down the mid lane again. Lee Sin getting very, very low. Diana deciding to try to go in. Froggen's not going to die to that Ignite, though. He is going to have the Safeguard Iron Will Shield, keep him alive. Meanwhile, on top lane, Wicked forced a flash away from Shy, just continuing the pressure with Jax. Counter-Strike was waiting for the stun, but a brilliant flash away from Wicked's going to save him for now. Yeah,
Ambition going ahead using the Crescent Strike to go ahead and check the blue buff there. He's checking Wolves as well, trying to use his advantage here while Lee Sin is not in lane to clear out a bit of CLG.eu's jungle and get a little extra edge on experience and gold.
They have been able to put a ward down over by the blue buff, although it's on the opposite side, so it's really just going to be protection from ganks as well as just a little notification as to when someone's going to be going over to that blue buff. They do see that Snoopy actually just lost the blue buff, so they're going to have a pretty decent time on that one.
Yeah, Snoopy continuing just going through his own jungle right now, and he is making a move towards, looks like bot lane. So we'll see if he actually tries to relieve some pressure, or if he's just going for these little golems. Going to go pick up red buff.
Captain Jack with his ever so favorite Bloodthirster first builds, getting that already 109 CS to the 93 of Yellow P. I'm going to attribute a lot of that to the fact he had that early blue buff, and of course the early first blood going down on the Snoopy with that failed gank in bottom lane. Yellow P only with that Phage. With the BF sword, he was still probably going to be able to win out in some of those trades bottom lane. However, now with the lifesteal in addition to the pure damage from Captain Jack's Ezreal, it's going to be really hard for Corki to do anything until he gets that Triforce.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't know, a lot of the, especially on Graves, the Bloodthirster first build actually came about when a lot of the North American and European teams realized that Captain Jack had kind of pioneered it at the MLG Summer Arena. He was doing it over in Korea, but that was really where it came to light. And so it's interesting that his kind of contribution to the League of Legends AD carry scene has been kind of popularizing that Bloodthirster when it was all Infinity Edge before that.
Just like we called in the pregame lobby, Wicked already going back, picking up Ionic Spark first, one of my favorite items in the game, so I'm super excited to see this. But because Shy's Jax has been applying so much pressure with his lane and pushing it constantly towards the tower, or at least kind of equalizing it in the middle of the river where it is now, that Ionic Spark is going to start letting Aurelia push back a little bit, so Wicked's either going to be able to split push that top lane or push it out and continue to roam around with that Lee Sin and get some ganks down. Yeah, you can see right now that Wicked has actually purchased a Vision Ward instead of a normal Sight Ward, and this tells me that he wants Froggen to be ganking top lane because Snoopy also has, or already, excuse me, has an Oracle. So that means that Snoopy isn't going to be going top to clear out those wards. Instead, Wicked wants to clear them out himself and open up ganks for top lane while Snoopy focuses on bottom and clearing out his own jungle. Accurate assessment, Monty, as Snoopy is waiting in that Tri-Brush bottom lane. We did see Zyra trying to get those roots down, and the Blitzcrank unfortunately did not land. Snoopy is going to have his flash up, so he could potentially just be waiting for JV to land one of those roots in place. Could flash over the wall, twisted advance, but now he looks like he's going to decide to recall, so maybe no action bot lane after all.
Yeah, this has been an extremely passive game so far. This is the kind of game that CLG.eu typically excels in. I'm a bit surprised. Looks like Ambition and Helios are pings going down, and they're going to try for a turret dive onto Wicked right here. You can see Shy.
Bottom lane, actually, we saw Captain Jack going down to Yellow Pete as Zyra finally landed one of those roots. Lustboy's actually going to get very low. Top lane, meanwhile, Wicked is going to get towered over by the 3 members of Azubu Blaze. And wow, that's just action all over the map, orchestrated by opposite teams and opposite sides.
Yeah, really nice work there by both sides picking up those kills, and there was really no chance for Wicked top. Shy did a great job of bursting him down with his ultimate, prepping him for the rest of his team to come in, so he didn't have a ton of HP, doing an aggressive trade right before his allies showed up to finish the kill under turret.
And this is something that we see CLG.NA do quite often, is they really focus on that mid lane, but more so the bottom lane. They wind up getting kills with their stronger bottom lane, whereas the Korean teams we mentioned before in the pregame lobby, they have very strong top laners, they have very strong mid laners, and this is where they focus their efforts. So it's kind of showing into fruition here. They're camping Wicked on the top lane. They don't want him getting strong on that Aurelia. They know how powerful Wicked can be. However, the bottom lane, even though, you hear of Captain Jack and Lustboy, we saw what they did at the League of Legends Summer Arena, but Yellow Pete, despite that little disadvantage, able to turn it around after Ezreal got first blood in that Bloodthirster and still pick up a kill.
Yeah, and we can see right here, Ambition doing some interesting things with items. He has picked up Ninja Tabby because he is facing off against that Lee Sin in mid that I'm sure has helped him significantly in terms of coming out on top of those trades. And it's looked like Ambition has really done a great job of kind of winning his lane.
Yeah, meanwhile, Azubu Blaze is going to be looking to take this dragon. CLG.EU had a ward there. Cho'Gath sniping that one away. 3 members of Blaze just going to start melting down this dragon. No motions from EU to really do this. Froggen actually going to respond by going into the enemy jungle, taking away some rates and getting some farm for himself. So very uncontested dragon for Blaze. And now 5 members motioning bot lane.
Oh, this is going to be such a huge jive, but they do pick it out with the ward and the tri-brush. Helios goes back to clear it out. So CLG.EU intelligently backing off. In the meantime, we have Snoop and Wicked pushing that top tower and getting that kill. That was the trade they made for the dragon up there, and they are going to be able to push lanes extremely quickly with that Ionic Spark.
Yeah, bottom lane, they trade tower for tower, though. So Snoop and Wicked, no real worry about that top lane because they're just going to be pushing down. Froggen actually coming in here, too. They're going to respond by taking 2 towers for 1 on the dragon, which is a fairly decent trade for CLG.EU.
Yeah, it does give them a lot of map control up on the upper side of the map. So it looks like Ambition coming up. Are they actually going to get this tower? Moonfall going down, and we do see the eventual Maelstrom hitting the decks too in front of the turret, but that's not going to be quite enough, and they're going to have to back off with the turret at around just a few hundred HP.
So bottom lane, meanwhile, we did see that Jerry going to go down to Captain Jack. Nice pull from Blitzcrank going down there. Yellow Pete going to give chase, though he has a lot of HP. Getting knocked up by Blitzcrank will eventually take down Lustboy, but Captain Jack just too strong there. Nets himself a very nice double kill.
Well, I mean, that's the power of this early Bloodthirster right there, Tom. Even though Captain Jack and Lustboy were both very, very low, he just couldn't put out enough damage to kill them both, and actually ends up feeding Captain Jack another kill. So he's at 3-1-0 right now, looking really good, about a 20 CS lead, 5,900 gold. He's about 800 gold up on Yellow Pete right now.
Yeah, and despite him being very, very low, he's healed all the way back up to full just off of that wave and those golems. So meanwhile, Azubu Blaze is going to be pushing down into that mid lane, picks up their second tower of the game. CLG.EU, though, did put pressure on that second top tower. Meanwhile, over by the jungle, Snoopy wanted to go for his own blue buff. Going to run into Shy, Helios, and Ambition. Triple gank squad just roaming all over the map and really shutting down CLG.EU, who want to send only either Snoopy or Froggen to really go around the map. Wicked actually going to get caught here by a Rupture. Has to burn the flash to get a stun on Helios from the Equilibrium strike beforehand. So no chase is going to go down.
You know, Tom, this is the Captain Jack that I'm used to seeing. He's a really excellent AD carry, perhaps one of the best in the games at positioning himself in team fights. And yesterday when they played against Naji and Sword, he really looked out of his game, and it's odd because Captain Jack typically relies on flash and a lot of the time cleanse as well, but he was playing Tristana with cleanse heal, and it just couldn't get him out of the sticky situations.
Ooh, good move top lane. Jerry using that seed to see that Cho'Gath's there. However, Wicked was pushed up very, very far, and he's actually going to go down to the Rupture. And once again, that triple gank squad from Azubu Blaze continuing to be a thorn in Aurelia's side.
You know, it's not only the gank squad that's working really well here with Diana, but Diana has a lot of power in terms of clearing out global objectives or buffs. Like blue, we saw her over there stealing the blue from CLG.eu, but by using the Crescent Strike with the Lunar Rush, you can actually put down a lot of damage on objectives like Barons. She's really excellent at getting those fast and securing them, and Ambition's been playing her flawlessly.
So because of that push in top lane, not netting the second tower, Azubu Blaze has been able to do what we've seen them do at the Summer Arena, continue to knock down towers one after another. Bottom lane, a nice pull goes down on the Yellow Pea. He's going to be in a little bit of trouble, but here comes Froggen, going to easily take out Lustboy with a quick kick to the face.
Yeah, that was a bit of a real risky move on Lustboy's part, just randomly pulling Yellow Pea when his AD carry, Captain Jack, was up in the north jungle. So he kind of got what he deserved for that move.
I mean, Blitzcrank has a decent amount of burst power. If I'm going to take a quick look at the way he's skilling him, he does actually have max of that robot arm, the rocket grab.
And he's going for a DFG, Tom.
Oh, man. So maybe he's learned something from Snoopy's Amumu play.
That's a pretty interesting build. We see, actually, Zhonya's Hourglass going to be the first item picked up by Ambition, and he might be going for a DFG a little later as well with that Cage's lucky pick.
Yeah, so we do see him. Zhonya's Hourglass signifies that they're going to want to be very aggressive early. He's want to jump in, deal as much damage, get that Moonfall down to pull everybody together, and then keep himself alive so that when they try to focus him down, he's going to pop the Zhonya's. Rest of his team going to be able to help with the CC. Of course, the Cho'Gath Rush will be able to land so much easier. Counter-Strike from Jax, of course, will be able to stun multiple targets rather than one or two, and then he's going to pop that Zhonya's. The focus will be all disoriented. He's going to pop out of it and continue to mop up and assassinate everybody.
Yeah, it's also, the Zhonya's is a reaction to the low amount of magic damage coming out of CLG.eu right now. We have only an Ionic Spark providing AP damage, and Maokai, really. I suppose there's some coming out of Zyra as well, but with the Froggen, Lee Sin, mid, as well as Corki, it's really going to be mostly about blocking that AD damage with the armor into the late game.
156 armor already acquired on Ambition's Diana. That is a very tanky mid lane champion, which you normally don't see that often. Meanwhile, CLG.eu going to be meandering about that mid lane and the river, potentially going to be waiting for the dragon to respawn. It should be coming up in just a couple seconds here, so maybe going to be going for that global objective, trying to secure it for themselves. They are down in the gold count already, 29.4k to 25k. They're down 5 kills to 3 and 3 towers to 1, so they want to get one of those global objectives secured and try to make a name for themselves on the map.
You know, Tom, I was talking about the Azubu Blaze's playstyle yesterday, and what Naji and Sword did excellently to really just stomp them, and we saw Curse do at the MLG Summer Arena, was you have to, against Azubu Blaze, you really have to get into the driver's seat of the game. You can't let them play their own game. You can't play passively and just allow them to roam and knock down your turrets, because that is when they're at their best, and they get kind of confused if you actually are aggressive as well and take the fight to them and use their own tactics against them. So they're one of the teams where they have a very distinct play style, and if you can do it back to them or prevent them from actually executing on it, they really get very confused and don't know how to end the game.
And we're talking about in the champion select as well. By picking this double bruiser combination, CLG.eu really needed to do that. They're unfortunately playing like their normal play style, where they let the enemy team kind of push onto them, they turtle up, and they're going to be the ones to let the team fall kind of into their late game trap. Unfortunately,